Good evening and welcome to Kursi Goyang. Tonight we are currently reading the Homer Iliad. Tonight we are resuming our last endeavor on Homer Iliad. We are gonna resuming from book 3 tonight. So here we go. Book 3. Argument. The duel of Menelaus and Paris. The armies being ready to engage, a single combat is agreed upon between Menelaus and Paris by the intervention of Hector. For the determination of the war, Iris is sent to call Helen to behold the fight. She leads her to the wall of Troy, where Priam sat with his counselor, observing the Grecian leader on the plain below, to whom Helen gives an account of the chief of them. kings on either part take the solemn oath for the conditions of combat. The duel ensues, wherein Paris, being overcome, he is snatched away in a cloud by Venus and transported to his apartment. She then calls Helen from the walls and brings the lovers together. Agamemnon, on the part of the Grecians, demand the restoration of Helen and the performance of the articles. The 23rd day still continues throughout this book. The scene is sometimes in the field before Troy, and sometimes in Troy himself. Thus by their leader care each material band moves into ranks and stretched over the land. With shouts the Trojans rushing from afar proclaim their motion and provoke the war. So when inclement winters vex the plain with piercing frost or thick descending rain, to warmer seas the crane-embodied fly, with noise and order through the midway sky. To pygmy nation would the death they bring, and all the war descends upon a wing. But silence, breathing rage, resolve and skilled, by mutual aids to fix the doubtful field. Swift march the Greeks, the rapid dust around, darkening arises from the labored ground. Thus from this flaggy wing, when notice sheds a night of vapors round the mountain's head, swift gliding mist the dusky fields invade, to thee more grateful than the midnight shade. While scarce the swain the fading flocks survey, lost and confused amidst the thickened day. So wrapped in gathering dust the Grecian train, a moving cloud, swept and hid in the plain. Now front to front the hostile armies stand, eager fight and only wait command, when to the van before the sons of fame, whom Troy sent forth, the beauteous Paris came, in form of God. A panther's speckled hide flowed over his armor with an easy pride. His banded bow across his shoulder flung, his swords beside him negligently hung. Two-pointed spear he shook with gallant grace, and dared the bravest of the Grecian race. As thus, with glorious air and prouder disdain, he boldly stalked the foremost on the plain, him, Menelaus, loved of Mars espies, with heart elated and with joyful eyes. To joy is a lion, if the branching deer, or mountain goat, his bulky prize appear. Eager he seizes and devours the slain, pressed by the bold youth and baying dogs in vain. Thus fawn of vengeance with a furious bound, in clanking arms he heaps upon the ground. From his high chariot him approaching near, the beauteous champion views with marks of fear. Smith with conscious sense retires behind, and shuns the fate he well deserved to find. As when some shepherd from rustling trees shot forth to view a scaly serpent seize. Trembling and pale, he starts with a wild affright, and all confused precipitates his flight. So from the king the shining warriors flies, and plunged amid the thickened Trojan lies. As godlike Hector sees the prince retreat, he thus upbraid him with a generous heat. Unhappy Paris, but to woman brave, so fairly formed, and only to deceive. Oh, hadst thou died when first thou saw'st the light, or died at least before thy nuptial rite, a better fate than vainly thus to boast, and fly the scandal of thy Trojan host. Gods, how the scornful Greeks exults to see the fears of danger undeceived in thee, thy figure promised with a martial air, but all thy soul supplies a form so fair. You are listening to Kursi Goyang. Tonight we are reading Homer Iliad, the first of many books. I wish you all having a good night. Sometimes I have trouble falling asleep because, from time to time, there will always be that night when you could think about anything and yet not solving as much. That's why I'm making this dream. Whenever I find myself having trouble to go to sleep, I always wanted to read some books slowly. Shall we continue? A better fate than vainly thus to boast, and fly the scandal of thy Trojan host. Gods, how the scornful Greek exults to see thy fears of dangers undeceived in thee. thy figure promise with a martial air, but all thy soul supplies a form so fair. In former days, in all thy gallant pride, when thy tall ship triumphant steamed the tide, when Greece beheld thy painted canvas flow, and crowds stood wondering at the passing show. Say, was it thus, with such baffled mien, you met the approaches of a Spartan queen? Thus from her realm convey a beauteous prize, and both her warlike lords outshine in Helen's eyes. His deed thy foes delight, thy own disgrace, thy father's grief, and ruin of thy race. This deed recall thee to the proffered fight, O as thou endured whom thou hast not right. Soon to thy cause the field would make thee know, thou keep'st the consort of a braver foe. Thy graceful form, instilling soft desire, thy curling tresses, and thy silver lyre. Beauty and youth, in vain to this you trust, when youth and beauty shall be laid in dust. That is so beautiful. Let me repeat that line for you. Beauty and youth, in vain to this you trust, when youth and beauty shall be laid in dust. Troy yet make awake, and one avenging blows crush the dire author of his country's woe. His silence here, with blushes, Paris breaks. 'Tis just my brother what your ranger speaks. But who like thee can boast a soul sedate, so firmly proof to all the shocks of fate? Thy force like steel a tempered hardness show, still edged to wound, and still untired with blows. Like steel, uplifted by some strenuous swain, with falling woods to strew the wasted plain. They give thy praise, nor thou despise the charms with which a lover golden Venus arms. Soft, moving speech and pleasing outward show, no wish can gain them, but the God bestow. Yet wouldst thou have provered the combat stand, the Greek and Trojans sit on either hand, then let a midway space our hosts divide, and on that stage of war the cause be tried. By Paris there the Spartan kings before, the beauteous Helen, and the wealth she brought. And who his rival can arms and subdue? His be the fair, and his the treasure too. Thus with a lasting leak your toils may cease, and Troy possess the fertile fields in peace. Thus may the Greeks review the native shore, much fame for the generous deed for a beauty more. He said the challenge Hector heard with joy, then with his spear restrained the youth of Troy, held by the mist, athwart and near the foe, advance with steps majestically slow. While round his dauntless head the Grecian pour the stones and arrows in a mingled shower. And thus the monarch's great Atrides cried, "Forbear, ye warriors, lay your darts aside." A parley Hector asks, a message bear. We know him by the various plume he wears. Awed by his eyed command, the Greeks attends. The tumult silence and the fight suspend. While from the center Hector roll his eyes on either host, and thus to both applies. Hear ye, all ye Trojans, all ye Grecian bands, what Paris, author of the war, demands. Your shining swords within the sheath restrain, and pitch your lances in the yielding plain. Here in the mists, in either army's side, he dares Spartan kings to single fight, and wills that Helens and the ravished spoil that caused the contest shall reward the toil. Let this brave triumphant victor grace, and different nation part in leagues of peace. He spoke in still suspense on either side. Each army stood, the Spartans chief replied. Me too, ye warriors here who battle ride. A world engages in the toils of fight. To me, the labor of the field resigned. Me Paris endured all the war be mine. Fall he that must beneath his rival's arms, and leave the rest secure of future harms. Two lamps devoted by our country's right, to earth a sable, to the sun a white. Prepare, ye Trojans, while a third we bring, selected to Jove, the inviolable king. Let reverend Priam in the truce engage, and add the sanction of considerate age. His sons are faithless, headlong in debate, and youth itself an empty, wavering state. Cool ages advances, venerably wise, turns on all hands its deep discerning eyes. See that befell, and what may yet befall, concludes from both, and best provides for all. The nation hears with rising hopes possessed, and peaceful prospects dawn in every breast. Within the lines they drew their steeds around, and from their chariots issued on the ground. Next, all unbuckling the rich mail they wore, laid their bright arms along the sable shore. On either side the meeting hosts are seen, with lance fixed and closed the space between. Two heralds now, dispatched to Troy, invite the Phrygian monarchs to the peaceful rite. Talthubius hastened to the fleet to bring the lambs of Jove, the inviolable king. Meantime, to beauteous Helen from the sky, the various goddess of the rainbows fly, like fair Laodice in forms and face, the loveliest of nymphs, of Priam's royal race. Her in the palace at her loom she found the golden web, her own sad story crown. The Trojan wars she weave, herself the prize, and the dire triumphs of her fatal eyes. To whom the goddess of a painted bow approach and view the wondrous scene below. You are currently listening to Kursi Goyang, reading the Homer Iliad. We are currently on book 3. I wish you are having a good night. This said, the many-colored maid inspires her husband love, and wakes her former fires. her country, parents, all that once were dear, rush through her thought and force to tender tear. Over her fair face a snowy veil she threw, and softly singing from the loom withdrew. Her handmaids climb in, and Aethra waits her silent footsteps to Scaean gate. There sat the senior of Trojan race, old Priam's chief, and most in Priam's grace, the king the first, Timoetes at his side, Lampus and Cletheus, long in council tried, Panthus in his Atheon, once the strong, and next the wisest of the reverend throng, Antier grave and sage Eucaligon, leaned on the walls and basked before the sun. These when the Spartan queens approached the tower, in secret on resistless beauty power. They cried, "No wonder such celestial charms for 9 long years. For 9 long years have set the world in arms. What winning graces, what majestic mien! She moves a goddess, and she looks a queen. Yet hence, O heaven, convey that fatal face, and from destruction save the Trojan race." The good old Priam welcomes her, and cried, "Approach, my child, and grace thy father's side. See on the plain thy Grecian spouse appears, the friends and kindred of thy former years. No crime of thine our present suffering draws, not thou, but heaven's disposing will the cause. The god this armies and this force to employ, the hostile gods conspire the fate of Troy. But lift thy eyes and say what Greek can he, farthest from hence this aged orb can see, around whose brow such martial graces shine, so tall, so awful, and almost divine. Though some larger stature treads the green, none so much his grandeur and exalted means. He seems a monarch and his country's pride. Thus is the king, and thus the fair replied: "Before thy presence, Father, I appear, with conscious shame and reverential fear. Ah, had I died ere to this walk I fled, false to my country and my nuptial pet, my brothers, friends, and daughter left behind, false to them all, to Paris only kind. For this I mourn, till grief or the dire disease shall waste the form whose fault it was to please. The King of Kings, Atrides, you survey, great in the war and great in arts of sway. My brother once, before my days of shame, and all that still he bore a brother's name. With wonder Priam viewed the godlike man, extolled the happy prince, and thus began: "O blessed Atrides, born the prosperous fate, successful monarch of a mighty state, how vast thy empire, of your matchless train! What numbers lost, what numbers yet remain! In Phrygia once there were gallant armies known, in ancient times, where Atreus filled the throne, when God like Mygdon led the troops of horse, and I, to join them, raised the Trojan force. Against men like Amazons we stood, and Sangar's stream ran purple with the blood. But far inferior those in martial grace and strengths of number to the Grecian race." You are listening to Kursi Goyang. We are currently reading Homer's The Iliad, resuming from the book 3. This said, once more he viewed the warrior train. What he whose arm lies scattered on the plain? Broad is his breast, his shoulders larger spread. The great Atrides overtops his head, nor yet appear his care and conduct small. From rank to rank he moves and orders all. The stately ram thus measures over the ground, and master of the flock surveys them round. Then Helen thus, whom you discerning eyes have singled out, is Ithacus the wise. A barren island boasts his glorious birth. His fame for wisdom fills a spacious earth. Antenor looked the word and thus began. Myself, O king, have seen that wondrous man. When trusting Jove and hospitable laws, to Troy he came to plead the Grecian cause. Great Menelaus urged the same request. My house was honored with each royal guest. I knew their persons and admired their parts, both brave in arms and both approve in arts. Erect, the Spartan most engaged are few. Ulysses seated, greater reverence drew. When Atreus' son harangued the listening train, just was his sense and his expressions plain. His words succinct, yet full without fault. He spoke no more than just the thing he owed. But when Ulysses wrote, in thought profound, his modest eyes he fixed upon the ground. As one unskilled or dumb, he seemed to stand, nor raise his head, nor stretch his sceptred hand. But when he speak, what elocution flows, soft as the fleeces of descending snows. The copious accent fall with easy art, melting they fall and sink into the heart. Wondering we hear, and fixed in deep surprise, our ear refutes in censure of our eyes. The king then asked, as yet the camp he viewed, what chief is that, with giant strength endued, with brawny shoulders, and whose swelling chest and lofty stature far exceed the rest? Ajax the great, the beauteous queen replied, himself a host, a Grecian strength and pride. See, bold Idomeneus, superior tower, amid yon circle of his Cretan power. Great as a god, I saw him once before, with Menelaus on the Spartan shore. The rest I know, and could in order name, all valiant chiefs and men of mighty fame. Yet two are warning of a numerous train, whom long my eyes have sought, but saw in vain. Castor and Pollux, first in martial force, one bold on foot, and one renowned for horse. My brother these, the same our native shore, one house contained us, and one as one mother's bore. Perhaps the chief from warlike toils at ease, for distant Troy refused to sail the seas. Perhaps the sword some nobler quarrel draws, ashamed to combat in their sister's cause. Meantime, the herald through the crowded town bring the rich wine and destined victims down. Aeneas arms a golden goblet breast, who thus the venerable king addressed: Arise, O father of the Trojan state, the nation calls, thy joyful people wait, to seal the truce and end the dire debate. Paris, thy son, and Sparta's kings advance in measures lists to toss the weighty lance, and who his rival shall in arms subdue, his be the dame, and his the treasures too. Thus with the lasting league our toil may cease, and Troy possess the fertile field and peace. So shall the Greeks review their native shore, much fame for the generous deed, for beauty more. With grief he heard, and bade the chiefs prepare to join his milk-white coursers to the care. He mounts the seat, Antenor at his side, the gentle steed through seas gave the guide. Next from the car descending on the plain, amid the Grecian host the Trojan train, slow they proceed. The sage Ulysses then arose, with him rose the king of men. On either side a sacred helm stand, the wine they mix, and on each monarch's hand pour the full urn. Then draws the Grecian lord his cutlass seethed beside his ponderous sword. From beside victim crops the curling hair, the herald parted, and the prince's chair. Then loudly, thus before the attentive bands, he calls the god and spread his lifted hands. O first and greatest power, whom all obey, who high on Ida's holy mountains weigh, eternal Jove, and you bright orb that roll from east to west and view from pole to pole, thou Mother Earth, and all ye living floats, infernal furies, and Tartarian God, who rule the dead, and horrid woes prepare for perjured kings, and all who falsely swear. Hear and be witness, if by Paris slain, great Menelaus press the fatal plain, the dame and treasures let the Trojan keep, and Greece returning plough the watery deep. If by my brother's lands the Trojan plead, be his wealth and beauteous dame decreed, the appointed line let the Iliad justly pay, and every age record the signal day. This if the Phrygian shall refuse to yield, arms must revenge, and Mars decide the field. With that the chief the tender victim slew, and in the dust their bleeding bloody threw. The final spirit issued at the wound, and left the member quivering on the ground. From a same urn they drink the mingled wine, and add libation to the powers divine. While thus the prayers unite mount the sky. Hear, mighty Jove, and hear, you gods on high. And may the blood, who first the leak confound, shed like this wine, disdain the thirsty ground. May all the consort serve promiscuous lust, and all their lust be scattered as the dust. Thus either hosts their imprecations join with Jove refused, and mingled with the wind. The rites now finished, Reverend Priam rose, and thus expressed at heart, overcharged with rose. You Greeks and Trojans, let the Chiefs engage, but spare the weakness of my feeble age. In yonder walls that object let me shun, nor view the danger of so dear a son, whose arms shall conquer, and what price shall fall, heaven only knows, for heaven disposes all. This said, the hoary kings no longer stayed, but on his car the slaughtered victims laid. Then ceased the rain, his gentle steed to guide, and drove to Troy, Antenor at his side. Bold Hector and Ulysses now dispose the list of combats and grounds enclose, next to decide by sacred lots prepare, who first shall launch his pointed spear in air. The people pray with elevated hands, and words like these are heard through all the bands. Immortal Jove, high heaven, superior Lord, on lofty Ida's holy mountains adored, whoever involved us in this dire debate, or give that author of the word to fate, the shades eternal, let the vision cease, and joyful nation joins in leagues of peace. With eyes averted Hector hastes to run the lots of fights and shakes the brazen urn. Then Paris leaped forth by fatal change, ordained the first to whirl the weighty lance. Both armies sat the combat to survey. Beside its chief his azure armor lay. And round the list the generous coursers neigh, the beauteous warrior now arrays for fight, and gilded arms magnificently bright, with the purple curses clasp his thighs around, with flowers adorned, with silver backlet bound. Lycaon's corsets his fair body dressed, braced and fitted to his softer breast. A radiant baldric over his shoulder tied sustained the sword that glittered at his side. His youthful face a polished helm overspread, the waving horsehair nodded on his head. His figure shield a shining orb he takes, and in his hand pointed javelin shakes. With equal speeds and fired by equal charms, the Spartan hero seated his limbs in arms. Now round the list of the admiring army stand, with javelin fixed the Greek and Trojan band. Amidst the dreadful vale, the chief advance, all pale with rage and shake the threatening lance. The Trojan first his shining javelin threw, full on Atrides' ring and shield it flew, nor pierced the brazen orb, but with a bound leaped from a buckler planted on the ground. Atrides then his massaculates prepare, enact the throw, but first prefer his prayers. Give me great Jove to punish lawless lust, and lay the Trojan gasping in the dust. Destroy the aggressor, aid my righteous cause, avenge the breach of hospitable laws. Let this example future time reclaim, and guard from wrong-felt friendship's holy name. Be said, and poised in the air javelin's hand, through Paris' shield and forceful weapon went. His corslet pierces, and his garment rends, and glancing downward, near his flank descends. The wary Trojan, bending from the blow, eluded the death and dispoints his hoe. But fierce Astrides waved his sword and struck full on his casque, and the crested helmet shook. The bridle steel, unfaithful to his hand, broke short. The fragments glittered on the sand. The raging warrior to the spacious skies raised his upbraiding voice and angry eyes. Then is it vain in Jove himself to trust? And is it thus the gods assist the just? When crime provokes us, heaven success denies. The dart falls harmless, and the falchions flies. Furious he said, and towards the Grecian crew, seized by the crest, the unhappy warrior drew. Struggling he followed, while the embroidered throng that tied his helmet dragging the chief along. Then had his Roman crown Atrides' joy, but Venus trembled for the princess of Troy. Unseen she came, and burst the golden band, and left an empty helmet in his hand. The casque and rage amidst the Greeks he threw. The Greeks with smile the polished trophy view. Then, as once more he lifts the deadly dart in thirst of vengeance at his rival's heart, the Queen of Love her favourite champion shrouds, for God can all things in veil of clouds raise from the field the painting youth she led, and gently laid him on the bridal bed. With pleasing sweets his fainting sense renews, and all the dome perfumes with heavenly dews. Meantime, the brightest of the female kind, the matchless Helen, over all decline. To her, beset with Trojan beauties, came, in borrowed form, the lore-loving dame, the laughter-loving dame. She seemed an ancient maid, well skilled to call the snowy fleece and the wind-twisted wool. The goddess softly shook her silken vest that sheds perfume, and whispering thus addressed, "Haste, happy nymph, for thee thy Paris call, safe from the fight in yonder lofty walls. Fair as the god, with orders round him spread, he lies and waits thee on the well-known bed. Not like a warrior parted from the foe, but some gay dancer in the public show." She spoke, and Helen's secret soul was moved. She scorned the champion, but the man she loved. Fair Venus deck, her eyes that sparkled fire, and breast revealed the queen of soft desire. Struck with her presence, straight the lively red, forsook her cheek, and trembling thus she said, "Then is it still thy pleasure to deceive, and woman's frailty always to believe? Say, the new nation must I cross the main, or carry the wars to some soft Asian plain? For whom must Helen break her second vow? What horror, what other Paris is thy daring now? Left to Atrides, victor in the strife, an odious conquest, and captive wife. Hence let me sail, and if thy Paris bear my absence ill, the Venus is his care, a handmaid goddess at his side to wait. Renounce the glory of thy heavenly state, be fixed forever a Trojan shore, his spouse or slave, and mount the sky no more. For me to lawless love no longer led, as scorn the coward, and detest his bed. Else should I merit of everlasting shame, and keen reproach from every Phrygian dame? I'll suit it now, the joys of love to know, to deep my anguish, and to wild my woe." Then thus incensed the Phaeacian queen's replies, "Obey the power from whom thy glory rise. Should Venus leave thee, every charms must fly, fade from thy cheek, and languish in thy eye. Cease to provoke me, lest I make thee more the world's aversion than their love before. Now the bright prize for which mankind engage, than the sad victim of a public rage." At this the fairest of her sex obeyed, and veiled her blushes in a silken shade. Unseen and silent from a train she moves, led by the goddess of the smiles and loves, arrived and entered at the palace gate. The maid officious round the mistress wait. Then, all dispersing various tasks done, the queen and goddess to the prince ascend. But for in her Paris sight, the queen of love had placed the beauteous progeny of Jove, where, as she viewed her charm, she turned away her glowing eyes, and thus began to say, "Is this a chief who lost the sense of shame, laid flat by the field, and yet survived his fame? Or hast thou died beneath the righteous sword of that brave man, whom once I called my lord? The boaster perished oft desired the day with Sparta's king to meet the single fray. Go now, once more thy rival rage excites, provoke Atrides and renew the fight. Yet Helen bids thee stay, lest thou unkilled shouldst fall an easy conquest on the field." The prince replies, "Ah, she's divinely fair, nor add reproaches to the wounds I bear. This day the foe prevail by Pallas' power, we yet may vanquish in happier hour. There want not gods to favor us above, but let the business of our life be love. This of the moments let delights employ, and kind embraces snatch the hasty joy. Nor thus I love thee when from Sparta's shore my force, my wheeling heavenly prize I bore. When first entrenched in Crinus I lay, mixed with thy soul, and all dissolved away. Thus having spoke, the enamored Phrygian boy rushed to the bed, impatient for the joy. Him Helen followed, slow, with bashful charms, and clasped the blooming hero in her arms, while this to love's delicious rapture yield. The stern Atrides rages round the field, to some fell lion whom would obey, roars through the desert, and demands his prey. Paris he seeks, impatient to destroy, but seeks in vain along the troops of Troy. Even those had yielded to a foe so brave, a recreant warrior, hateful as the grave. Then speaking thus, the King of Kings arose, "Yet Trojans, Dardans, all our generous foes, herein attest from heaven, with conquest crowned, our brothers' arms the just success have found. Be therefore now the Spartan wealth restore, let aggrieve Helen own her lawful lord. The appointed fine let Iliad justly pay, and age to age record the signal day." He ceased, his army's loud applauses rise, and the long shout runs echoing through the skies. That was the end of Book 3. You are listening to Kursi Goyang. We are currently reading Homer's The Iliad, which is finished The third book, the argument and the fight between the two of chiefs. I hope you have a grateful night. Have a good dream. Have a sweet dream for me. Tomorrow we will resuming our endeavor into Homer's The Iliad. Let this be it for the night. I will see you again tomorrow at the same time. That's it for now. Good night. Have a nice dream. Ciao.